So Ro touched on this a little last night. This course is actually not a course of instruction. It's a learner-centred course. It's centred around you. And so you get out of this course what you really want to get out of it. We encourage you to take responsibility for your learning, to ask the questions that you need to ask, and also take responsibility for your comfort during the course. So if you need to go to the toilet, that's fine. If you need to stand up, move around, that's fine. Just always having an awareness about the learning journey of everybody else. So having the respect for the other people in the class as well. This is adult education. We're not kids here. This is also based on best practice learning environments. So some of the things that we've maybe seen in other education environments won't necessarily play into this course, because this course has been put together with the best research available about effective learning and effective teaching. We'll be covering those things in more detail as we go through the course. I mentioned you have the right to pass. There are no silly questions. We love hearing questions. So really, if you're thinking, I don't understand something, something's not clear, we'd encourage people to speak up, because you're probably not the only one thinking that, and it really makes the course stronger when we hear questions and can speak to those. We'll also be wearing different hats during the course. And by that I mean, sometimes we'll be thinking as learners, and sometimes we'll be thinking as teachers. And Ro, Greta and I will be encouraging people to put one hat on or another as appropriate. So this morning we're thinking as learners, and then you'll find throughout the day you'll be wearing teacher and learning hats simultaneously or interchangeably. So every morning, after morning circle, we'll come in and talk about what's happening during the day. And we call this What's On. We've made these posters. We teach a lot with posters in this course. There's a tension here between wall space and poster size. Of course, we love things to be visible, and if every poster could be the size of this window, I'd just be the happiest person ever. But we'd only probably get 5 minutes into the course before we'd need a new room. Keeping that in mind, though, as we're teaching with posters, I'd encourage you to think about the value of this from a learning experience. Has anyone ever learned with posters before in this sort of form? How did you find it?
This is a really good way to get people involved, because sometimes you can take that same format and use it in your note-taking skills set. Helps people with their visual memories.
Sure.
I like that it doesn't involve technology, so if the technology fails, it's still good.
And technology can and will fail.
You can keep them around the room to refer to later, whereas a screen, it disappears and goes on to the next one.
Are you going to give us copies of this? Is there should we scratch down the ones that we see?
We'll put these up around the walls as best as we can at the end of each day or during the day, and they'll stay up till the end of the course, and then I'll go around and take pictures of all of them and drop them in that digital folder that you'll get at the end too. So everything you see here, you will end up with a photo of it at some stage. Did you have another thing to add, Pat?
I just like the simplicity of it. It is something that was mentioned that you can just sketch it down very quickly.
Yeah, great. Also, as a teacher, it's really useful. I mean, we use PowerPoint a lot in this way too in teaching, not in this course, but a lot of teachers use that in teaching as a trigger of what you're about to talk about. So it helps enhance student learning and also enhance the teaching experience too. So what's on today? Starting up here, session 1. Pat, can you read this out for us?
Yeah. Care of people, basics of working together.
Care of people. That's our focus this morning in this first session. Thanks, Pat. Next one.
Learning culture.
Learning culture. Building learning cultures, building that safety of the group. And that will be with Ro and Greta, session 2, and then session 3.
Factors impacting on learning.
That will be with me here. So thinking about teaching space, learning spaces, and how they can enhance or detract from our experience.
How PDC content is taught. MT5 brief and an MT1 brief.
Ooh, MT, what could that mean? That sounds like jargon to me. So if you ever hear jargon in this course, I want you to say, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
MT in this course is how I shorten the word micro-teaching. And so, like I said, this isn't just a course about instruction, this is a course about your learner experience. And in this course, each day, there'll be the opportunity to teach for a short time with a small group of people, something that you're interested in, that's to do with the PDC, and we call that micro-teaching. It's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we can't ramp it up slightly through the course. So from tomorrow onwards, there'll be space for micro-teaching in each day. And that means this afternoon we'll talk more about it. We'll hear about the micro-teaching for tomorrow that you'll be doing, and then also the final group project. Similar to a PDC, this course has a group project at the end. So we'll be able to dive into that and answer all those questions in the 4th session today.
Ethics, principles and strategies.
So that's this evening's session, how to teach ethics, principles, strategies and techniques. And we had a question last night about evening sessions. We'll have one tonight, tomorrow night and the next night. And then the last couple of evenings will be putting together your micro-teaching or your group work or whatever you need to do. So they're not structured evenings. Questions about what's on for today?
What time does the evening session start?
Evening sessions are 7 to 8, yeah. And we acknowledge they're long days, there's a lot crammed into this course, but it is a really rich experience, and believe it or not, people do get through it. I've been there myself. How do we feel as learners hearing about what's coming up in the day?
I love having a framework so I know how things are going to fit.
Sure, thanks, Kath. Yeah, there's a few Kaths out here. Some people don't need the timetable, don't need the recipe. There's like recipe people in the world and there's non-recipe people, and you always have both in the group. So, you know, put the timetables up and half the room won't look at them and the other half has already taken photos and written down notes, I saw you. And I thought, that's what I do. So our days have a pattern, and these are based on best practice education models. It's a flow to the day that keeps the energy levels up, leads to enough rest, enough breaks, enough social time, and really emphasises the learning, the ideas-based education in the first 2 sessions of the day before lunch. So I'll put this up on the wall. This is kind of works in tandem with the little timetable because it's got our times on here, and it's just a different way of seeing things. So breakfast, morning circle, then we've got session 1, which is really based around ideas because we're fresh in the morning sometimes. We have longer breaks in this teacher training. We're trialling the 45-minute break instead of the 15-minute break. Because sometimes we will run into that break, and that means if we're 15 minutes over, you still get half an hour. We'd love to hear how it's working for you. Maybe we do a mid-course evaluation, and definitely at the end. So that's why some of the class times are like, oh, why did we start at 1:15? We're trialling this. Everything that we do in this course is with the goal of enhancing learning, and everything we do is relevant to you in your future teaching. So we really value your feedback and participation on that level. Session 2 ideas, we have an hour for lunch. Session 3 is generally, not today, but from tomorrow onwards will be when we do our micro teaching. And we'll talk more about flows of energy through the day on day 5, but it generally matches the energy level of groups after lunch. Obviously everybody's different. Some people can't get through the day without a siesta. You'll be micro teaching instead, sorry about that. And then sometimes micro teaching, depending on group numbers and the amount of time we're teaching for, we'll have a break and then finish off in that 4th session. And 4th sessions generally, similar to a PDC, our group work sessions. So there'll be certain tasks we go through each day in our group work with the aim of having that main group work project at the end of the course. And again, we'll talk about that later this afternoon, give you all the info that you need. 3 evening sessions and then 2 evenings of free time. And so this has, and there's also between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock each evening, there's an hour there for you to call your family, do what you need to do. And also there'll be some not too onerous chores, love services, servicios amorosos, that some of you will be doing on some nights. Questions about the pattern of our day?
Yeah? Why is this useful? I find that very useful because I do remember the break times from my PDC 2 years ago, and that was, I think, the 15-minute morning and afternoon tea, and it just wasn't quite enough by the time everyone gets through having a cuppa, something to eat, go to the toilet, check something in their van or their tent. It was a bit squished. So this is a really good spread out. And then because you haven't rushed through the day, I feel you have more energy to do an evening session, not wanting to just go back and crash out. So I think that's a really, really good time scale for the day.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments on patterns of our days being introduced in first session as a learner?
Sets the expectations.
Sets expectations. Feels safe. Feels safe. Thanks, Catherine.
Starts to talk about patterns.
Starts to talk about patterns. We're always getting patterns, us Hermes.
It's really good to help with self-management. Thank you.
Yeah.
What I can do in the time available.
Yeah, great. No nasty surprises down the track. Ooh. So on that note, there are a few requirements for this course. You do always have the right to pass except for micro-teaching. We encourage everyone to give micro-teaching a go, and part of obtaining the certificate at the end of this course means you've participated in all of the micro-teaching exercises. It also means you've been here for the whole time. So if you're not here for the last 2 days, you won't receive your certificate of attainment. If there's some huge emergency, we'll have a talk about it. You might get a certificate of participation or some other variation. But everyone who owns a certificate from this course has participated in all micro-teaching. They've participated in the group project on the final day, and they've been here for the whole time. Half an hour here or there is fine tomorrow. You won't fail today, it's cool. She missed 5 minutes, no. Who's been on a course where course requirements weren't discussed at the start? And did that cause tension on your course or?
Confusion more than anything else.
Right.
No one knew where they stood
Yeah.
or what they stood to gain.
Yeah. It can be really hard if people think, oh, if I'm there for half the time or the whole PDC except the final session, I've done the PDC. And if it's a course requirement, it really needs to be clear at the start. Yeah. Questions about these? Oh, I've got a couple more things to say first on my visual notes. There is stationery up the back of the room. You're welcome to use whatever you like. Just being mindful that there's a group. So if you're taking all of the pens, someone else might want to use it. Maybe take 1 or 2 or stay around this area with all of the pens. Yeah, paper's yours to use. We're being mindful of waste. I acknowledge that the pens are plastic and that's not ideal. And in best practice permaculture courses, we use pencils. We use, for poster making, wax crayons. There are refillable options. We have whiteboard markers. There are refillable permanent markers as well. They're quite expensive, but they do exist. These are Ozpen. They're made by an Australian small company, and they will last forever and ever. They come with refills and refillable nibs and refillable tubes and all of the things, and they're fantastic. They pay themselves off in 2 courses.
And they respond very well if you get that lot.
Yeah, they're great with customer service.
Absolutely.
Pat?
What was the
Ozpen.
company?
Ozpen. And sometimes they get a bad name because people come in to teach, guest teach, and they don't know Ozpen and they say, oh, it's not working, and that just means you've got to refill it, which takes 3.5 seconds, and sometimes they throw them in the bin, which is what's happened here, and there's only 1 pen left for the Fair Harvest set. Sad story. I'd encourage you to take care of the stationery so it lasts as long as it can. There are pencils up there. There's also a library of books. So these books are Fair Harvest books, and if you've brought in books that you'd like to let other people look at, please write your name there. Ro recommends actually, if you are using your books as teaching resources, you write your name on the pages, and that way people can't rip the page out of your designer's manual and take off with it. And I used to live with Milkwood, and every book I ever borrowed from them had Milkwood written across there, and yeah, it works. So that'll be kind of this area, these tables here for library stuff. That table there is our teaching stuff, and we'll be working there in the evenings. If we're working, you're so welcome to come up and have a chat. You can like kind of slide up creepily and eavesdrop. Totally fine. That's why we're here. We do everything out in the open. We're not in the office cloistered away. We're preparing for the next day, because this is the reality. Everything that we're teaching here in this course is about transparency and showing the process. So by all means, eavesdrop, creep around, ask questions. We're not too busy to answer questions. We're here with that in mind. The mother duck, which is a name we sometimes use in PERMI courses for the person taking care of student welfare issues, questions, all that sort of thing. As Greta said yesterday, is Greta. So if you've got a question, if we've run out of toilet paper, if you're too cold at night time, if you drank the dam water and having issues, like I don't know. Greta's your person for that sort of stuff. And of course, Ro and I are here too, and so's Jodie. And there's a handy campground map, drawn by someone, I don't know, that I've got some over there on the stationery table. If you're not sure where you're allowed to walk, it's got the little walk trail signposted, and it's pretty cute. Great. It's totally cute. So this part now is actually quite, it's quite vulnerable. It feels like quite a sharing from Ro and myself, as when we talk about our teaching ethics. And it's us showing you, the learners, what's really deeply important to us. What do we think a definition of ethics might be? What's ethics mean?
Core values.
Core values.
Guiding principles.
Our guiding principles.
The things that help us hold our shit together in the shape that we want them to be in.
That's great. Could be a bumper sticker. Ethics, helping me hold my shit together. Shape I want it to be in. The underlying meaning behind what we do. Yeah, what drives us, what motivates us. So it is quite a personal thing. And a lot of us are drawn to permaculture because of those ethics. Yeah, they really resonate with us. They help us to make those decisions we're making on a daily basis in a way that feels good. There's morals behind those decisions. As teachers, Ro and I have teaching ethics. I'll read Ro's out, and I encourage you to just tap into how it feels to hear Ro's ethics. Ro values information that is accurate, clear, and verifiable. Her delivery is respectful, succinct, there's no jargon, and it's clear. It's what she's aiming for in her ethics. She treats learners as knowledgeable, as having skills, as people to be listened to, and learners are aware. I'll read out my ethics and tap in as well to how that feels to hear them as a learner. As a teacher, I am present to student needs. I live what I teach. I'm well prepared and I do my best. I inspire and motivate agents of change. I enjoy the teaching journey, both mine and that of the other people. How do we feel as learners hearing our teachers' ethics?
It's wonderful.
How do you feel, Sarah?
Feeling grateful.
Grateful, thank you.
It's very comforting because quite often when you are someone who is being taught, it's assumed that you are ignorant of that subject. Not completely, but there can be that underlying feeling from the teacher, and it's not conducive to learning your best because you
Don't know how to do mulch?
Doing this on this course in particular is useful because it means us thinking about our own teachers and in the process of forming.
On day 3, we'll all get a chance to write down our own teaching ethics. And to that point, I mean, who learns really well when they feel ashamed? Or when someone's making them feel really silly or like they're really ignorant?
Well, not to do stuff.
Any other comments on teaching ethics and how it feels to hear them?
It meets my need for integrity and respect. I feel safe. And helps me feel open to learning.
Sort of clarifying to like why you guys are here, and it's nice to have that clarity because through the interactions that we'll be having, knowing your intent, that's cool. It's nice.
I really like there's a beautiful sense of exchange between us all.
The teacher always has something to learn still too.
Yeah,
The teacher is constantly a student still.
Whenever you're in the role of teacher or facilitator, there is a power imbalance, and we're constantly looking to address that, to equalise, because we're all teachers and we're all learners, no matter what course we're teaching. This is a really helpful tool, and this goes up on the wall with all the other posters to remind us as teachers and as students why we're all here. Ro, did you have something to add? And then Greta, about your ethics?
I think it's important for all of us as permaculture teachers adhering to permaculture ethics to then have some teachers' ethics and tell our students what they are. Because there's really only sort of medicine and a couple of others that have ethics. And you think where lack of ethics has taken people. Imagine if politicians put up really clear ethics, their deep moral beliefs, it would change the world. Similarly for engineers or real estate salesmen. I mean, you can think of the range of people who appear not to have ethics in their lives. The other thing is you are exposing yourself a bit, and you can be kept to task and kept to your ethics. And that's a little bit of a risk, but it's also an encouragement to be able to hold to those things that you think are really important for yourself and students. So I would encourage you all as permaculture teachers, tell your students your ethics fairly soon on in your course, and I think you'll find there's a slightly different shift in trust and belief.
Do you have something to add, Greta?
Yeah, well, on the topic of full transparency, I forgot to brand mine up. But I will do that so that they're on the board as well. And I don't know if it's useful sharing now, but I think as a facilitator or an educator, having ethics is a place to go back to in those moments where you have to make a decision or where a situation arises in front of you, and you know because you've considered who you want to be as a facilitator and as an educator, you have a place that you can go back to and refer to in those moments. It's very helpful.
I'm wondering why you still use the word teacher.
What do we think? Thoughts, Ro?
I didn't quite hear the question.
What about the use of the word teacher?
Well, I suppose in different forms of English, from India to America to England to European English, some people like facilitator, some like teacher, some like coordinator. We settle for teachers in this because we are developing a set of competencies. And so competencies or outcomes are really quite clear in all our courses. And I think it's a reasonable common word that you can interpret any way you like, or if you want to use another word, it's fine. But for the sake of this course, it is simple and understood by most people.
That's right. You need to define that the way you define what a teacher is first. That's the key point. Like a good question. What is the word teacher? So if that word remains, then it needs to be redefined or clearer boundaries set. So it's not in that position of power, ego and balance.
And we also explore in the later half of this session different teaching styles. And then on tomorrow, go into that in a bit more depth too, so that this concept of teacher, we might bring certain backgrounds to that meaning, certain context around that meaning, and we're really unpacking that during this course. What can a teacher really be? What's possible? I'm aware we've been sitting down for a little while, so how do we feel about doing the thing now, Greta?
Yeah. Does everyone want to stand up and we'll meet outside in the morning circle area?
There's a song to this. Mingle with a jingle, with a hingle, with a mingle.
And we find groups of 2 palms touching.
Mingle, jingle.
All right, and we'll mingle again. Keep mingling.
Mingle, mingle, mingle.
With a hingle,
Jingle,
with a
mingle,
hingle.
jingle.
There's a Latin
Jingle,
American
Lara,
one that just
jingle,
stand on a chair and sing a mingle song to this. To a 6/8 beat. Yeah, it's amazing.
And we'll find 3 elbows touching. 3 elbows?
Elbows.
We need another one. All right, let's keep mingling.
Michelle, you'd be great to have in an emergency.
Mingling.
Getting it happening. Mingle, mingle, mingle. Mingle, mingle, mingle. Mingle, mingle, jingle. Mingle, mingle, jingle.
4 and cut shoulders.
1, 2, 3.
One more time.
Mingle, 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 I gotta get out of here.
Great. We'll stay here. You've got groups of 5? Great. These, have a look at the people who are in your group. You are your service of love team.
And I've got a question for you. All the numbers from 1 to 100 is the best number to play this game, so that you can get lots of groups.
Great.
So now.
We have 5 groups of 5.
Pretty good.
Awesome. Can you be group 1, group 2, group 3 with Wayne, group 4 with you, Ross, and you are group 5. Can you remember which group number you're in, and we'll form back into a circle. Oh, is it? Can we form back into a big circle?
Here we are. Is this round enough? Yeah, it's round enough.
So we have 5 groups and we have 5 service of love tasks. 5 group tasks to do each day. So each group will do one task and we rotate each day. There's a timetable inside. You'll be able to cross-check. Oh, there we go. It looks like that. It's up on the board. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the tasks. So the first task we've already talked about, which is the morning circle. So your group will run the morning circle once. You'll do a gathering circle, run an energizer, do some form of revision. It could be a quiz, it could be a role play, it could be some kind of meditation, that's up to you. But try and recall the information that we covered from the previous day. And it's a way that as teachers or as educators, we then start to embed knowledge and learning into the course. And then we make space for announcements. And we check in with the teachers or the facilitators if they've got announcements. Check in with Jody or Do if they've got any announcements, and then open it up to the group and find out if anyone else has something that they need to share. We have a group who are sheepdogs, also sometimes called shepherds. Their role is to bring everyone back on time. So that might look like a 5-minute warning or a 10-minute warning and then a 5-minute warning and then a strong barking action or something. But trying to make sure that we're all ready to start at the beginning of a session. As teachers, we take time very seriously, and it's a matter of respect that we'll finish when we need to finish, and we hope to start on time as well. We're not too important that we go over, but we also hope that there's respect that we're all ready to go at the beginning of the session.
Can I speak to that really quickly? If you're a sheepdog, the opportunity is there to practice bringing people back in a way that is non-violent in origin. So in a way that's fun and exciting. You saw this morning we started with a song, and people who are still making a cup of tea over there think, oh gosh, something's happening, I better come in. What we're trying to avoid in this course is bringing up triggers around school, bringing up past memories around education, bells, alarms, this sort of thing. So we're really looking to do that in a different way. A cooee is a really simple one, but it's your opportunity as sheepdogs to play with this and make it as fun as you want to.
I just need to say that some kids get brought together by songs all the time, and that would trigger the hell out of them.
Not this generation, I'd say, but it's a good point.
By year 6, they're like,
All right, then we have a meals group. So if you're on meals for that day, your responsibility is to bring food out at lunchtime and at break time, to check the tea station, make sure there's water in the urn, make sure the supplies for breakfast are ready for the next day, and to communicate with Jody and the kitchen team if we need to top anything up, or also come and communicate with me. We have a kitchen cleanup crew who will be responsible for self-organising, whether they wash everyone's dishes or whether they set up the wash station and then clean up dishes at the end if people have forgotten. It may be helpful for that group to encourage people to finish eating before the end of the lunch break so that they have time to clean the kitchen as well. And the last group is the cleaning crew. We will check the bathrooms and make sure that there's toilet paper and that they're clean, and then we'll sweep out and clean the teaching spaces at the end of each day. So that's a lot of information. It's written all at the bottom of that table that Brenna's holding. So don't worry if it's too much, but yes. I think that's, and would you like to add anything else on groups?
Oh, just who's doing what today?
Oh,
so
I can forget.
Group 1, hands up please. Today you are morning circle, so your chance to do morning circle will actually be on day 6. Very clever, I've planned it that way. Oh, group 2, sheepdogs. Sheepdogs today. Ooh, being creative. What can we do after lunch as something loud and exciting that people just want to be here? They don't even know that they're being enticed here. Group 3 are on meals today, so check in with Jody if she needs help. She can communicate that, and maybe don't swamp her all at once. Maybe elect one person to check in with Jody when you see her. 4? 4 is kitchen cleanup. So really what Greta said, encouraging people to finish and be cleaned up before the end is your biggest mental load today. I'd encourage it, yes. And group 5? Group 5 on general cleaning. So just checking it. That'll be pretty easy today because first day, nice one. You also have that on day 6, so good luck. Anything to add, Rose?
Oh, just a reminder, most courses run on the kitchen. They go on the cook. If the cook's good and the meal's on time and everything's fine, they end up writing their evaluation of the whole course. Food was delicious. And you have no idea what they learned or what they were doing, but the food was delicious. So equally, a cook can be upset. We're asking you, please, if you want any changes in the food, to talk to Brenna, one of those two, Brenna or Bretta, one of those two, or myself, who will then talk to the kitchen. Please don't go to the cook and say, less sugar, less salt, change this something, because it really can become a huge, the cooks can cry or turn to drink. And we don't want either of those things. So to keep the cook balanced, it would be nice if you had any. You can call out delicious, wonderful, enjoyed that. But for your courses, this is really good practice because I've seen cooks very upset. Okay.
And we can't cook our 100% indoor
Yeah, I think just to add as facilitators, having a communal responsibility for teaching spaces and toilets and tea stations and things brings everyone in, and particularly in this course we're all teachers and we're all learners, and so we have both of our hats on in this moment, but it makes your life so much easier if you're not worrying about whether there's any tea left, because there's someone else who's responsible for that. So it's a great tip for bringing a bit more personal responsibility or collective responsibility to the running of the course.
It doesn't, and it's a really good question. Yep. Is it under the toilet still?
There's a box underneath, but there's more. It's like an old storeroom or something that opens little paper.
Right near the toilets.
Under the stairs. There's a box under the stairs, and then all the other boxes are in
It's a box under the stairs.
Okay.
where you're just
Yep. The toilet cleaning crew box under the stairs. And hands up if you've done a course at Fair Harvest before and done love services here by some other name. So there's quite a few people who actually know how this works as well, which is a great benefit to us as a group. Yeah, not if it's a compost toilet day. Thanks, Greta. All right, let's head back inside, everyone. So you've done an excellent job, and we'll try this and see how it feels. Already I'm feeling more comfortable as a teacher, being able to see everybody. How are we feeling in our current seating? How's it feel for you? Yeah, a little better? A few options?
I can't hide anymore.
Those who have hearing needs, how's this working for you? Yeah, better? And like I said before, we're in charge of our education and our needs, so if you like to sit down on the floor, if you like to be down the front, if you need to be at the back walking and just place yourself where you need to be. We are a big group, there's a lot of chairs here, but I think you've done a marvellous job sorting out, creating a better learning space for us today.
The need for eye contact is what made it impossible to do anything other than a circle.
Interesting.
Maybe that's
What would you say was the best ratio for teachers to group size?
Ooh, so in this course, it's often a smaller group, partly for the group work activities, and partly for timing around group work activities, but partly just for logistics. A large group needs a large space, and we're lucky here at Fair Harvest that they have a few options for that sort of thing. But in this course, having row only come out, we were so overwhelmed with enthusiasm for it that I push the upper limit of what Ro lets me let into a course. And Ro, group size and teachers?
Well, I think for a PDC you can take quite big classes, but for this one we'd prefer to have something about 16, possibly 20 maximum, partly because we often get asked for references for you, and we're sort of keeping a little bit aware of how people are going and what they're doing and where their strengths are mainly. We're looking for your strengths all the time. So this group's a little bit too big, but I think it's a brilliant group because we've got really experienced teachers. This room's come together really well. The evidence is when adults can see each other and learning from each other, they learn more than that you do from the teacher being up front. And the variety of chairs is important, different chairs for different bodies. Big cushions are good that sit on the floor, a couple of rugs, that's all quite comfortable. Doesn't have to be exactly that.
Can I add on the other side of that bracket, we're talking about the two biggest size. Another facilitator, Sarah, and I were asked to run this course for Byron Community College. And it didn't matter because they're TAFE, it didn't matter how few students there were. And we had to make a decision and look at the learning outcomes, which is building confidence and building confidence in larger groups of people, and go, no, actually, we can't teach it to any, like 10 is too little. 12 is okay, 12 is the bare minimum, and we had to set the lower end of that bracket, looking at the course outcomes.
Right, what's the largest PDC that you've taught?
I had 80 in Vietnam sitting in rows of fixed seats.
How did you find that?
I got people to work in their rows and change rows, and they were half the time turning backwards to talk to each other. It was very difficult. I don't think they learnt much.
Oh, just more a comment. The school data says that the ultimate class size is 15 for
one teacher.
For one teacher. Yeah. So less than that, and you get what you're talking about, and more than that, you don't. But that's talking about individualised student kind of stuff. But it's interesting. It was very similar to what we were saying.
So the education department doubles that.
Yes.
Great, so in this session we've covered a few things. We talked a bit about teaching space, and we're going to continue this conversation as we move through the day. We talked about some logistics like our sitting tree and first day kind of activities like talking about teaching ethics. We've covered a whole bunch here. What I'd like to do is go around the circle and just see one thing that you're taking away from this session in a couple words, like a short statement. The second to have a think about that. Who'd like to start us off?
Ozpen.
Right or left, and the person who'd like to speak, you give someone a bit of an option. So that's just a learning thing. You know, if someone speaks and they go, if you like to or you like to, and you're only asking for one word really. So
I can learn people's names.
Teaching material, posters.
The patterns of the day.
New group dynamics.
Probably the transparency stuff.
Teaching ethics.
That was my ethics as a charter for engagement.
Sunscreen.
Using teaching aids.
You're allowed to pass. Pass. The group size matters.
Reflecting, I don't think it's been said, but what it's triggered in me, reflecting on the difference between teaching as delivering and teaching as in making learning happen. Ethics.
Group size, that idea that a group can be too small, bit of worse. I've always thought one-on-one was best for maximum transfer, but the thought that there are things that are better understood in a bigger group.
So a bit of bug on there. Like learning outcomes. just thinking about what my own were, because I had set intentions before coming here, but then I think they were a bit wishy-washy, so having like actual concrete work, having some bit of shop in this.
Look for patterns, they can be very cool.
Yeah, the transparency of the ethics and the feeling that evokes in the student sort of stuff.
The teaching space and even something simple as chair set up for eye contact between not just the instructor but between adults within themselves as well for further learning.
I think the clarity is really good, outlining what's to come.
I think for me it's the whole process of everything from meeting in the morning, all the different stages to integrate a group and provide a space for learning.
I think for me I'm still in the observation. I'm watching everything from how you guys are delivering to us, how I'm feeling. Yeah, like the whole process actually.
I noticed the cohesion when like the task was to set up the room and it was very chaotic and then everyone raised their hand and we sort of like how can we figure this out as a more cohesive group. That's cool.
The requirement, the urgency that Roy mentioned for learners to come out of PDCs with competencies.
With you and you.
No, I'm just going to repeat what Kat said, and I think that's brilliant. Teaching is delivering versus teaching as helping learning happen. That's brilliant. Yeah.
I really liked the setting intentional ethics and being transparent.
Thank you. I'm always impressed if you give people the right criteria, they'll come up with the right learning. The criteria that they learn best, we know this is the evidence, and then as people get on with it, they'll come up with what is required.
I think everyone brings something, different learning experiences and life experiences, and everyone has some value to bring to the group.
Beautiful reflection to end on. So just before morning tea, Jodie had something she wanted to contribute. Charlie or Jasper, would you mind taking on and see if she's ready?
Can I do another teacher thing?
Yeah.
You increase retention by 30%, or some sort of review.
Some sort of review.
Some sort of review. It only has to be something like that because all of us had to analyse every single thing that we've learned or that we could remember, which is about 10%. And in doing that process, we opened the file in our brain, so it's about 30%.
So it's 30% of 10%?
30%? No, people generally, like if we just done it.
We've bumped that 10 to 30.
Yes.
So that's how we monitor your learning. Please.
Oh, morning tea. You ready? I just want to say thanks to Roy because I think it's actually really nice that we get to say what's in the food, where it comes from. It's orange cake, and the oranges I freeze. When the oranges are in season, I boil them whole and freeze them and blend them whole and package them in the right size container for the cake. So that when I make the orange cake, it's just really easy. It's all back in the freezer. And the almonds are it's the almond meal left from making almond milk. And our eggs, of course, and then there's and there's a herbal blend of sage, thyme, and we're having a really hard time actually getting local organic fruit at the moment. Even Gathered Organics, who sells the local fruit, it's just that real mid-season stage, and if drinks haven't quite come on, our citrus has finished. I've got frozen and dried stuff which I'll be presenting in different ways, but as far as fresh fruit goes, there's those apples that I put out this morning. They are Capel apples. Capel Donnybrook somewhere around there, and she picks them in the cool room and sells them at local markets. I get them by the box load. and where I think Joe's going to go down to Dave Franklin's today and harvest a load of juicy citrus so that in the mornings they can juice citrus.
Otherwise, broadbean.
So, a reminder that during morning tea, some people could write their names down there in that piece of paper at the back. And for the group that is on meals, if you would mind grabbing the cake and taking it to the camp kitchen, and we'll all have our morning and afternoon tea over there, so we're out in space.
What time are we back? Just for those of us who are wrangling?
We are back at 10:45 in this space or thereabouts.